I mean, we had 98 contacts together in the first month, and I think probably about 95 of them were citations. So
Well, that's good.
Yes.
And that's the way to start out your career. Just make a ton of stops. I know it sounds dumb, but you'll learn what you're looking for by just making a crap ton of stops. I mean, you're going to be like, oh, I don't even care about this, but I got to know who I'm talking to. Because that's how you're going to learn your area, all that kind of stuff.
No, plus, definitely. That builds your work ethic, that builds your reputation. And if you get the reputation as a slug, it's going to follow you the rest of your career. So
Never want
that's
that.
the way to go.
Right.
Well, I'm a professional, but some people say I'm a slug. I don't know. What's going on?
I've never heard that. I have not heard that once. I mean, I haven't heard anything, but...
All right, well, I guess this is the best time to begin now, so...
Welcome to 7 Points, a podcast produced by the Arizona Department of Public Safety, where we talk to different individuals who make our department so great. Whether a state trooper or civilian support staff, every employee has a unique story and path they took to get here. 7 Points asks guests 7 specific questions to give listeners insight into what it means to work here and to be a part of the law enforcement family.
Everyone, welcome. This is 7 Points with the Arizona Department of Public Safety. I am Sergeant Andrews. I almost said trooper because I'm so used to, I'm Sergeant Andrews now for almost a year over the Public Affairs Unit and everything we do with public information. So are my co-hosts here?
Detective Sherrod Harris, currently assigned to the Governor's Protective Detail.
And then my supervisor, our Public Information Manager.
Warren Trent, in the house.
And today we have our guest, Trooper Kevin Bynum, and I pronounced that correctly, right?
Yes, you did. Yes, sir.
So we're going to talk to you today, these 7 questions that we share with, or that we ask everybody on this podcast. We're going to go through those in our 7 points, just like our 7 points of the badge. With that, I understand you're still on FTO. You're fresh out of the academy, right?
Super fresh.
What class were you?
Class 35.
Class 35 of State Trooper Academy. Okay.
And that is awesome.
Yes. So, with that, first just tell us about yourself. Where'd you start? What did you do before you're at DPS? I mean, I'm not going to lie, you look a little young, so I'm guessing...
A little bit. I've been told once or twice what people I've arrested so far. They're like, are you old enough to be a trooper? I think so.
Parents signed a waiver.
Basically. You're going to get carded, you know?
Yeah, something like that. So before DPS, I was working at Nike up in Anthem while I was finishing up my degree at GCU. I did 2 years of my community college back in Yuma. I'm born and raised in Yuma. And then I transferred over to Grand Canyon to get my bachelor's in justice studies. I did, I think, a year and a half there. I graduated like a semester early. I don't like school, so it's not that I was like super motivated to do it. It's just I wanted to get it done. So I took classes in the summer to try to just get it over with. I graduated in 2021. Yeah, December 2021, and then I applied for DPS. I think it was early or late 2022, early 2023. Got hired on as a pre-hire, then went through all that, and then started the academy. It's been a lot since then.
So what you're telling me is, are you a Yuma criminal?
No, I was a Kofa King.
Oh, my God. Well, okay. We can't hold everything. It's okay.
Excuse me. So I went to GCU.
Okay.
I got my degree in justice studies,
Okay,
so
cool.
I know exactly what you did. Did you live on campus, or were you driving? Okay, nice.
No, I did. I know I didn't want to live around the campus. I mean, if you've ever been there, it's a great campus, but I mean, there's fences for a reason. I'll just leave it at that.
It's a great part, especially since you're assigned to Metro Central on Graves, right?
Yes, sir.
It's a great area to patrol in the middle of the night. You'll get tons of stuff around there. So we definitely did that when I was on that same squad. So, so you worked at Nike. So you grew up here in Phoenix, or did you move out here later? Or
I was born and raised in Yuma. I moved out here.
Or sorry, you said Yuma.
Yeah, 2020. I moved out here to finish up my degree, so I've been here ever since.
Gotcha. Okay. So an Arizona native, though.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
So Yuma or Phoenix? What's your favorite?
It's tough. Personally, I'd like to say Yuma, only because I'm a small town kind of guy.
Absolutely.
All my family's there. It's like Phoenix, sometimes when you're driving around, you just kind of just feel like a number or just like another person on the freeway. Yuma is like a far drive used to be 15 minutes, and now to get gas, I got to drive 20 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
it's
absolutely
huge here. But there's a lot more to do here, so it has its pros and cons. But if you were to ask me, I think my heart's in Yuma.
Yeah. I lived in Yuma for a short period of time, and I absolutely loved it for the very reason you're talking about. It was small, but yet you had enough stuff. Great place.
Right.
Great people down there. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Cutting the drive to San Diego in half from Phoenix.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's only a few hours.
It's
You're
just
good to go.
it's a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. The beach is less than a day away. You go to the beach and drive home.
2.5 hours, all it is.
I got to get there. I've only been to Yuma like twice. Just go down there and spend some time. Check it out.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of little holes in the walls to eat and all that.
nice.
It's not too much to do, but I mean, there's a couple things you could do. It's a great place to stop, even if you're passing through. I mean, I have no complaints. A lot of people don't like Yuma, but if you know what you want to do, there's something you could do there.
So why did you want to be a police officer, but also why did you want to come to DPS? Or how many, let's be honest here, how many departments did you apply for?
DPS is the only, I guess, police agency I applied for. I did apply for Border Patrol beforehand, back in like 2019, then again in 2021 or 2022. Both times I breezed through everything and I failed out the polygraph both times. Why, I could not tell you. I've heard just different things here and there. But, I mean, I've never done any drugs. I've never even drank alcohol to this day. I've never tasted alcohol. So I'm like a pretty, what they like to call like a good, clean-cut kid, I guess. So that when I first applied for Border Patrol, the thing I was least worried about was a polygraph. I was worried about everything else, the interview, everything else. So I applied just wanting to get to the federal level because my dad used to be in law enforcement. So he's like, just go federal as fast as you can. There's better benefits, yada, yada, yada. So I tried that, failed out the polygraph, was kind of like wondering why. And I was like, man, am I a bad kid? But obviously, like, background check, everything was pristine. So once I didn't do that, I just kind of prayed, put it up to God because I'm a big man of faith. So it kind of led me to the next step down, which is the highest step from that, if that makes sense. That's probably
No, I got you. I'm following you, yeah.
So I tried the state level, and then DPS, I mean, I don't think I've ever had a smoother process. Not even at Nike to try to get hired on. Everything was super silky smooth with DPS. They communicate really well. And like coming into the polygraph, I was super nervous just knowing what had happened before. But the polygraph examiner is like, no big deal. Like, you have to answer if you've taken one before, but trust me, we don't hold it against you. Especially coming from Border Patrol, like she said that comment, so I was like, okay, like I understand what's going on. So then it kind of helped me relax a little bit, which, well, now I'm here, so
You're
like
where you're supposed to be.
Exactly, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of, not to get too much into the faith thing, but God leads you where you need to be.
Definitely.
And also what you're saying about our hiring process, what a great compliment to our HR people, because it's not an easy thing to do, to get people tested, hiring, especially in law enforcement, because there's so many little steps and notches that you got to check off along the way. It's so for you to hear you say that it was a super smooth process, man, that means the world to me, because that's super important. It's super difficult to do. So,
oh yeah, I mean, I didn't know. Like, once I got hired on, I realized, because I was a pre-hire for a little bit, so I realized what actually goes into it, and I was like, man, someone was putting in overtime to try to get me in here because, like I said, without skipping a beat, as soon as one thing would be done, someone would be contacting me, hey, here's your next test, go to this. And I'm
awesome.
like, wow. And I'm like I said, going back to applying for Border Patrol before, I'd do one thing and it'd be like a month or month and a half before the next thing would come up. So it's like, I kind of expected the same process here, but I think I was done with the entire process within, I don't know, a month and a half with all, like, everything done. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Really streamlined.
That's fast. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I think
really
when
good.
back in the day when we were applying, it was taking 6 months from your application to getting hired on finally. So that's awesome. Yeah. So at really DPS, you said, was the only law enforcement agency not at the non-federal level. So you didn't even try for any of the other agencies.
Correct. 1 for 1 on the police side.
Nice.
Do you remember how many people did you test with?
So I did my initial testing down in Yuma. I think there was maybe 6 or 7 other people there, so not too many.
Oh, wow.
But trust me, I've heard stories that, like, they used to test at Westgate or like at the stadium, and there was like thousands of people. So
yeah, that was both of us. I mean, I think when I did it at Phoenix College, and we probably had 200 or 300 people there, and that was one of many, testings that they had that month. So it was crazy
insane.
back then.
Wow.
Yeah. So why did you want to be a police officer in the first place?
So I think from a super young age, probably like 5 or 6, once I figured out I couldn't be a Power Ranger in real life, I think law enforcement was like a good second. And I think that's just because my dad was in law enforcement for 24 years. I think it was like 7 for Yuma County Sheriffs and then the rest for Yuma Police Department. So he was a huge role model for me, still is a role model for me. And I wanted to be like him. So I always knew I wanted to be a police officer. It's just I wanted to get, based on his guidance, I wanted to get my degree and whatnot to do everything right to try to set myself up for the best success possible. So going into it, it was not a matter of if I wanted to be, it's just when, or like when it was available.
So is the federal level, is that still kind of a goal for you, or are you just happy where you're at right now and just want to take it one day at a time kind of thing?
My dad asks me that all the time because obviously he wants what's best for me, and I think he's trying to push me towards the federal level. And I myself, like I had aspirations to go to the federal level, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just a bad taste in my mouth from previous experiences, like with the federal level and how streamlined this has been so far. And I don't think I've yet to meet a person that talks bad about DPS in or out of the department. So it's like I'm kind of falling in love with the department more and more. So if you were to ask me right now, it's probably leaning towards seeing what happens here rather than doing my time here and trying to jump out because I'm really liking what I'm doing so far.
Plus, and I mean, speaking from my own experience, we have task force officer positions that basically you get to play Fed, that I say, and you get the benefits of being a Fed, but you get the benefits of being state too, and you don't have to go through an academy again. And I was a TFO for 2.5 years over with the DEA, and that was one of the best spots I've ever had at this agency. It was so much fun getting to do all the Fed stuff, but still knowing that this is my home, this is where I was assigned, and getting to do that. It was fantastic. I highly recommend that. So, especially for somebody who was considering Fed at one point. So, best thing I could have ever done.
I mean, and everyone always says like, hey, I'm a trooper. Oh, you're highway patrol? And it's like, at first, yeah, that's what I thought it was. But once I got in and found out, I mean, just like the endless opportunities that are in here, it's like, well, if I can't find what I want to do, then I might be in the wrong spot because there's just so much to do here.
Absolutely. So tell us, what are you, I mean, I know we've talked a little bit, but what is your current role? Like, what are you doing right now in your career right now with DPS?
So I'm trying not to drown in paperwork currently, but in a serious note, I guess I'm in phase 3 of field training. So I have about, Lord willing, like 2.5 to 3 weeks left before I'm a solo trooper. So currently I'm just trying to be a sponge every single day on every single stop, because every single stop, it could be the same reason for the stop. I'm learning something different on what you can't do, what to do here, just different tactics, how to talk to people. So I'm just in the very spongy phase right now.
And just for people listening, our field training program basically has 3 different phases, as he mentioned. Each of them are 4 weeks still. I'm sure that's
4
what
weeks.
we're doing. And you'll be with a different trainer for each of those phases. And they focus on different things in each phase and just progressing you to being a solo state trooper. But what a great time. I honestly, field training was great. I had a blast too. I worked very similar shifts that you're working right now. Mm-hmm. And like we were kind of tossing back and forth before, it's a great time to learn how to talk to people and to really be able to differentiate, because there's actually a lot of really good people in the Phoenix area. And you're going to meet them all, right? And most of the time when we're meeting somebody, it's not their best time. You know what I mean? They don't want to talk to us for the most part.
Right.
You know, so it's either a collision or, heck, they made a civil traffic mistake. And the way you learn to interact with those people is really what's going to, for them going forward, how they react to other police officers and other troopers in similar situations. So it's a great time to be out there. I miss those days actually a little bit, just out there.
Were you ever an FTO?
Yes.
Okay, I never was, so I never.
Yeah, and training guys, it's super difficult. It really is, because you want to give them everything that you learned, but like we were kind of spitballing before, is that you're going to create your own, process, if you will.
Right.
You can't just go based on what your field trainer told you every time, because this is a fluid job. You're going to have different experiences. I've had different experiences than Eric, and like we talked about before, we've worked very similar jobs throughout our careers.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's such a great experience. I love this job, so I could talk about it all day. But yeah, for that reason, you got a great attitude. I love it. So.
Well, you said you were kind of spongy. Has anything surprised you so far?
Besides everything, it's tough because it's just going in, because the academy teaches you one thing, and obviously they want to set you up to essentially just survive your first day, really. But once field training kicks in, it's like you go from like strenuous academic work to you're out there, like you're in the deep end, and it's like you have to apply everything to the best of your ability and keep your head on a swivel. And I didn't understand how important that was until you're walking up on your very first traffic stop and you're like, this could go one of two ways, really good or really bad, and really quick. So I think just that first stop, well, actually our very first stop, I wasn't even driving. It was with Trooper Abdullah. There was a car, I think, on northbound 17, like around the northern exit with expired tags. Just, that's all it was, expired tags. Try to pull it over, stopped at the light. We were at the light for a couple minutes. As soon as the light went, they took off, and they were going like 80 down the surface street, so we couldn't even pursue. And I mean, it was that quick. And I was like, wow, this is a really good reality check here, because just a simple stop turned into something that who knows what could have happened. So I think ever since then, I was like, okay, like no stop is a simple stop. You got to treat everything like, I guess it's a bad way to put it, but treat everything like it's your last. Put your whole effort into everything you do. That way you ensure that all your boxes are checked, and you're looking over your shoulder, and you're reading that guy that's walking up, because you never know really what's going to happen. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned in field training, is learning how to effectively multitask while being like the eye of the hurricane and everything. If that makes sense.
Have you gotten in any pursuits yourself, or any of the foot pursuits or any of that fun stuff yet?
Phase 1, I responded to a pursuit that turned into a bailout, that turned into everyone, the cavalry, like Firebird was up in the air, and they were hiding in some neighborhoods, like back in the backyard, like underneath a grill. I think he ended up having, and that's actually where I got my stitches for the first time, jumping the fence. That was a cool story with Salim. We weren't involved in the pursuit because we were probably like 20-ish miles away, and I learned how to drive like super code with a lot of traffic in days.
Super code, I like that.
Yeah, it was that in itself was really stressful. But once we got there, we had to kind of like look around, and there was probably like 15, 20 DPS troopers, and like probably 30 Phoenix officers. I could be exaggerating, but that's what it felt like when I was there.
No, probably not.
But we finally we talked to a couple neighbors, and then they're like, I think someone's in there. And so we went, and then we were just kind of looking in the fence, and then our captain at the time yells at Salim and I, like, get over that fence. And I'm like, that's a captain yelling at me. I mean, I basically saluted about face and ran straight to the fence. It was a very, very poorly constructed fence, so it was one of those that weren't built on like retention. So as soon as I jumped on it, it was kind of like a pole vault in the Olympics. It kind of just bent back. But I mean, there was like 40 people there, so in my head, I'm really competitive. So I was like, there's no way that I'm falling off this fence in front of all these people. So I just gripped harder and then just kind of rolled over it. Got over, found the guy who was coming out. Salim and I drew down on him. Found out that I think our SWAT team was like caddy corner to us. So before there was a crossfire, I was like, hey, Salim, like, because people were yelling at us like, hey, stop, DPS, stop. Because our captain told us to jump. Phoenix saw our SWAT, so they didn't jump. So they told us to hold, but our captain told us to jump. So it was a really fast, like a Spider-Man kind of like, what's going on here kind of thing. But they finally got the guy proned out, and everything was fine. And I holstered my weapon. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see red, and I'm like, dang it. Like, I'm only like 3 weeks into this job, and I already messed something up. So I had to go get my tetanus shot, which was not fun, and I had to get stitches for the first time in my life, which was also not pleasant at all.
Nice.
But yeah, it was a cool experience though.
Yeah. Those. I mean, we especially you can attest to how things change so fast and everything. You're trying to take in all the information, but you're just getting more and more information second by second, and you're just trying to roll with it. And especially when there's other agencies. And I mean, you'll see, I mean, you've already seen, but especially working Metro Central here in Phoenix, as soon as DPS puts out help, Phoenix comes like rats out of the gutter. Like they are just, I'm not anything against them, but they are just, everybody comes and helps. And that's huge. I mean, have you talked to some of your classmates that are out in the rural areas and explain some of that to them, and they go, oh, I'm out here by myself with nobody for 50 miles. Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I talked to one of my buddies, Spencer, that's up in Flagstaff, and I think one of his first calls was like a fatal, and he had to drive code for an hour just to get to the fatal. And it's like that I could not imagine like having to do all that. And then who's going to be your backup? Like if you need backup, that's going to be another at least 20, 30 minutes depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really cool I guess positive for working Central. I know the call volume is more, but I mean help is just a couple minutes away at any given time, which is it motivates you to do more because help is close by.
Mm-hmm.
That, and you're already talking about that being a great experience because you show up and you see the family that is policing, and it doesn't matter what uniform it is. We're all in that family together, and so when it gets serious, that's when the family comes together. So it is a good, and working in Metro, you're going to see that a lot, and don't take it for granted because it is an awesome feeling to have everybody with you. So.
Especially because, we all have our rivalries, us, Phoenix, Tempe,
we're the
whoever.
best, of course.
Of course, absolutely. We're the state. But in those times when there's a call or whatever, like there is no question. We all back each other and everybody is there for each other. And even, we all have personality differences, and there may be people on your own squad that you may not necessarily get along with the best. But when it comes to that call and that experience, they have your back 100% and you have their back 100%. There's never any question about it. So that's one thing I love about this job for sure, is just the camaraderie is unlike anything in the business world. Absolutely unlike it. So I'm glad you're getting to experience that.
Yeah, and it's happened. It's not the first time it's happened. It's like I'll be on a traffic stop at a super random area, and then I'll see like a Phoenix person roll by, and they'll just make sure I'm code 4 or like anybody. I think I had Maricopa show up and like, hey, what's going on? Oh, no, we're good. Like they kind of snug up on me. And I was like, oh, no, we're good. Like, it's just, simple stop. But they don't hesitate whatsoever to lend a helping hand. They'll divert from where they're at if they see the lights and just to check on you. And that's really cool because I feel like at the end of the day, the best way to put it is like when things go south or when you need additional units, every agency has like different color uniform, but it's just all one uniform, there. And that's really cool because it's like if you need something, you're not like, oh, who should I pick? It's like, hey, can you help me with this? And it's like, boom, it's done. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your favorite thing that you've seen with DPS so far?
I feel like the diversity that it has in like anything and everything. So what I mean by that is that you get people coming from all kinds of walks of life that join DPS. And within DPS, there's so much to do. And I knew there was a lot of things to do, but I didn't really grasp how much there was to do in DPS. And I love that because I can't remember who told me, but they're like, if you get burnout, like you don't have burnout. You just need to change, what you're doing. If you're tired of the road, go to CI. Or if you're tired of CI, go back to the road. Go, you can try SWAT, try MID, try something. There's always something you can do to freshen your palette and just, I guess, add more tools to your toolbox kind of thing, which is really, really cool because obviously I don't even know what I don't know at this point, but I know that I want to do more and I want to learn more. And it's like when I'm ready for that, there's always going to be something where it's like if I think I'm a master, I'm a fool because there's always stuff to learn and there's always more stuff to do.
That's the perfect perspective in this job. I remember, so a little background, Eric and I went to the academy together. And I remember there's a class, it's like the first week it was, but basically he was an assistant chief somewhere, came in, and he's like, hey, well, what would you say at the end of your career, if you had a successful career, how would you describe it being successful? And there's some guys that are like, oh, I'd be the chief, and I'm going to do this and that. And in my mind, I didn't answer it out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, I just want to have as many experiences as I possibly can in this career.
Right.
And that's, again, what's so great. And every police department has a bunch of specialty units. I'm not saying it's just DPS, but at DPS, we have specialty units in every part of the state.
Right.
Right? So, in other words, you can be on a specialty unit in Phoenix. You can be in a specialty unit that's in Mojave County, living in Snowflake or Holbrook or wherever you want to live,
Right.
and still have all those experiences. And so much to learn and so much to experience, and I would love to try it all.
Right.
And I'm like, that's what my successful career is going to look like.
Right.
Did I get to do and try and learn to be the best at whatever I put my mind to? So there's lots of great opportunities, specifically at DPS and other departments, but obviously I've experienced these and I've loved them. So great outlook from your part. So
Thank you.
So, what are your goals here at DPS? I mean, like you said, there's so much stuff that you can do. What are some that sound interesting that you're like, yeah, I definitely want to try to do that at some point in my career?
I'd say first and foremost, get off field training. That's the number one goal right
Great
now.
Great goal.
After that, it's just really learn to be a solo trooper, like a true solo trooper, kind of like be a master of all trades, even though you can never stop learning in this job. But once all that is kind of down, I really like CI. One of the things that interested me coming in is get 'em, because I know, one, they're all over the state, and two, I just like their like way of working, how they're out there on the streets and they're talking to anybody and everybody. I like how usually it's like 2-man units, so you're able to do more things with it. And then I also like, I haven't really seen too much of it, but I responded to transport one of their people, VTI. I really like how they just showed up, and I think they did a search warrant on like a chop shop somewhere, and just seeing how they were all there and just the whole, what they told me so far, it was just super cool. And I had like just adrenaline just listening to them. So I feel like that's a thing that interests me, but I definitely want to get into the investigative side for sure.
And again, just for people that are listening for the first time or don't know, when he says CI, he's talking about our Criminal Investigations Division. That's where they handle long-term investigation, things like that. The other squad was VTI. That's our Vehicle Theft Interdiction Squad, and a bunch of very experienced detectives over there that absolutely love their job. So, yeah. Great
It's
guys.
really shocking in my position now as PIO when I go out to these community meetings and stuff that people have no idea that we have any of this. They're like, well, you guys are just on the highway, and they don't even think we can stop people for traffic stops off the highway.
Right.
And then you talk to them and say, no, first of all, we're state certified. We can stop you anywhere.
Right.
But no, yeah, we have Get 'em that's statewide. Get 'em is the Gang and Immigration Intelligence Team Enforcement Mission. That's what it is. Yeah,
I wouldn't have been able to recite that.
Basically, it's our gang unit, and it's a task force environment where we have people from other agencies come join us into this task force. So, but again, just for the listeners and the viewers. But yeah, we have gang units, we have narcotics units, we have vehicle theft, we have general investigations, we have so much stuff that people have no idea. And like you said, it's all opportunity. It's everything that when you come to our agency, and Phoenix has a ton, Mesa has a ton, and even smaller agencies have some of the specialties, but they might have a sergeant and 2 or 3 guys, where we have a sergeant and usually like 4, 5, 6 guys just in Phoenix, and you may have 2 narcotic squads with that much. Plus you have them in Tucson and Yuma and Flagstaff and Kingman, and there's so many opportunities here. It's awesome to share that with people. It's awesome to be here to, again, have those experiences ourselves. So.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned the community meetings. Like when we've done these, just constantly trying to get that message out there that, we are more than just on the highways here. There's so much more you can do. Like at the one community meeting we went to, you brought in the gang task force. I mean, that was great that they were able to tell the community what it is that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're almost at the end of our 7 standard questions. So the last one is, I think, the most fun one, but what trooper tale, as we're calling it, what Do you have, I mean, you shared your story about that bailout and everything, cutting your hand. Do you have any funny or embarrassing story, whether from FTO, Academy, anything like that?
Man, I mean, there was definitely a lot of experiences, I guess, in the Academy, I'd say. I feel like there was an embarrassing or funny moment probably every day, but unfortunately, you can't experience it in the Academy because you have to be sitting at attention the whole time. But looking back, it's, I mean, obviously super comical. I feel like, I guess one of the funniest things, or maybe embarrassing, one of the two, was, I mean, it wasn't funny at the time. I guess now looking back, it's pretty funny. We just finished the post-test. I guess a little bit of backstory. So I was one of the squad leaders in the Academy, and the 4 squad leaders, we got together and we studied hard for the post-test. And we probably studied for, I think, 2 or 3 days, but like several hours in the day, just quizzing each other, going over probably the 1,500 pages of notes that we had throughout the Academy. And we also just so happened to kind of, 3 out of the 4 of us sat right next to each other, like one behind me, one to my right, and then one behind to my, oh no, it was just 3 of us, yeah. And then another guy in the Academy. So anyways, we take the test. Sergeant Coughlin comes in, super, like, serious, I guess, which was not good because it was a super stressful day. And I think he says something to the effect of, well, you guys never cease to surprise me. And I was like, well, I don't know a lot of things, but I guess based on my training experience, that's not a good sign. So he said that we all passed, but that 4 of us were going immediately to IA because we had the exact same right answers or exact same wrong answers. And I was like, dang, I wonder who that is. That's messed up. And then he's like, you know, Bynum, Ramirez, Newnham, Bott, stand up, go outside. And I was like,
no one was more surprised than I.
Yeah. I looked around for Bynum and I realized that it was me. And I was like, oh, man, that's me. But I was like, I sit in the front left corner. If anything, they're cheating off of me. So I was like, I'm squared away in this. But I was like, man, there's no way. But I was like, okay. So it's like a very, very stressful in the moment. But at the same time, it was almost like I have nothing to be stressed about because obviously I didn't cheat. So then we go, and I mean, shout out to Sergeant Coughlin because he played it off very well. He had the sergeants of IA come into the room too. So I mean, they went really into it to introduce us to that was their introduction to us. So we stand up and we're kind of like is he kind of pulling our leg here? Is this like, you know? And he's like, go. They want to start interviewing now. So we're like, oh, okay. So then we start walking outside, and right before we get to the door, he's like, hey, by the way, I'm just kidding. And then everyone but the 4 of us start laughing really because it's like, yeah, it's funny to you guys because you're not in this situation. But yeah, it was all just a ruse, I guess, as they call it in law enforcement, just to take the stress off and say, congratulate us that we passed. I guess they try to, you know, pull something like that on certain classes or whatnot. But yeah.
Or just if they're bored. I mean, it's just a good time. So.
Oh, yeah. Probably, yeah. One thing I do want to say about the Academy is they're very good at finding ways to punish us. But I mean, it teaches discipline, so it's not a bad thing whatsoever. But sometimes you gotta laugh because it's like, wow, this is
really happening.
Any other situation, it'd be like, really? But I mean, it's understandable in the Academy.
Good deal.
Well, I think that's all our questions, and I mean, we'd like to thank you for coming in. I mean, I always enjoy teaching at the Academy, teaching the younger guys. I don't think I taught, or I helped teach, I think, just a little bit of your crim law class with Sergeant Betwarda.
Oh, right. I remember that.
But I was only there for like half of one of your classes. But now I'm teaching some other stuff with the new ones. But I always enjoy being there, and I enjoy talking to the young guys that are coming up because you're going through what we experienced a decade ago. And, I mean, there's people on the department who've been doing this for 30 years. So I love talking to this younger generation coming up and what you guys are experiencing and how things have changed because I haven't been on the road in I don't even know how long. So hearing how things have changed, hearing what they're doing and how things have evolved and grown is always great. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being so candid with us. We appreciate it. Just thank you for doing what you're doing. Good luck finishing up FTO.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
Keep that attention to detail.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you're going to do great. I've heard good things, so
That's a good thing.
so just keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. But thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for what you do.
I appreciate it.
Well, on behalf of 7 Points from AZDPS, thank you for listening, and thank you for watching, listeners on YouTube. But that's going to be it, so we're signing off for today. Thank you.